We were just together a week ago. Reverend Wilma led us in the white stone ceremony, lifted us, called us forward. That's why you're here this morning. You woke up this morning committed to not being the person you went to bed like last night, to rise up this morning, to be different, to grow, to believe not only that you can, but that everybody here and connected, no matter where they are, can. They can be healed. They can experience miracles. They can know the presence of God because you are present. So let's share this affirmation together. I am open to transformation. I release what no longer serves my becoming. I trust the wisdom within me and the power that moves through me. I stand at the threshold of something new, ready, willing, and able to grow. Today I choose clarity over fear, freedom over limitation, and possibility over the past. And so it is. You may be seated. So just like Stuart, all of us moved into the new year, but for some of us, we had things that occurred that we were not anticipating. And that is the experience of life. Life itself. That sometimes we think we know our plan from point A to point B, and suddenly something happens between A and B. And then we have that moment of faith this month that Wilma reminded us is the power of faith. And that moment where life happens, and it doesn't always have to be negative. I think sometimes we only focus on the hiccup that brings us into the valley. But sometimes we have set a mastermind request, an intention, and suddenly something happens we weren't anticipating either that opens a door for us. And we have to move through the smallness of us to be able to step into the greatness that's presenting itself. You see both sides of that, right? So the need for us to be able to remain conscious, to be able to take the leap forward, or to be able to move through the valley, it's available to all of us. I was listening to a commercial just yesterday morning, and it was of these two gentlemen who are trying to get us to buy their ebook online, right? You ever heard those like on Sirius? It breaks into your radio and all of a sudden it's two people who are going to solve all your problems, typically around money, relationships, or in other places in your life. Everything's going to be made well by them. They want you to know that it's available to you and all you have to do is click on or call. And I was listening to the fine print that they were reading. And it said, these results are not typical, and nor are they promised. In that fast voice right at the end that you can barely listen to, but is their disclaimer. That this is not common, nor promised. And yet, I bet there are hundreds, if not thousands of people who click and call. Our message is different. Our principles are promised, and they're accessible by all, always. That's worth clicking on. That's worth believing in. But a lot of times we just kind of take what sounds easy, and we don't even listen to the people who are telling us. It's kind of like those drugs, and I'm not anti-medicine. I am grateful for the medicine that shows up in my life. But sometimes you hear those prescriptions that you have to take that provide you with all of the things that you're trying to get rid of. Right? So here's the list of all the symptoms that you can have. By the way, they're the conditions you may have. Plus, we're going to add on 10 more that you don't have. We tend not to listen to that. We have tools that are available to us, always, to all of us. There's a principle called spiritual alchemy. Now, alchemy, for those of you who know what alchemy is an ancient experience where there were individuals who thought that they could take lead or another property and turn it into gold. That was the belief that you could manipulate and create what you wanted out of nothing. Now, that's one of those things like that advertisement. Bring us your lead and we'll turn it into gold, but pay us gold to get the gold you've asked for. That is very much like the commercial. Spiritual alchemy, on the other hand, is our experience. It is something that we can believe in. When we put our effort into our own experience and we pour into that, the belief, the faith, all of the tools that we have, miracles happen, transformation happens, healing happens powerfully. If you've had that experience where you have had the sense of nothing, maybe it was incredible, overwhelming grief. Maybe it was a sense of never being enough. Maybe it was a separation between you and abundance. If you've ever had that experience, but have been on the other side of it, where the chemicalization occurred and it changed for you, just raise your hand. Look around this room. Keep your hands up. Take a look around. You in the front have to turn around. Those in the back, that's why I always sat in the back. I could just look. I didn't have to do nothing. Keep those hands up. Not one of these people raising their hand who have said this has been their experience is trying to charge you to get that experience. The hand extended is a testimony that this has worked for me. But it's also, you can put your hands down, it's also a reminder for each of us that it has been our experience before. Sometimes we can get tired of having to remember that experience. Right? Like, really? You can understand Stuart's feelings this morning, right? Like, really? Really? Two of the most important people in my life. Really? I have to, really? We can relate to that. And yet at the same time, we have to be able to move forward, and we're invited to. There isn't anything that we're experiencing that is permanent, that imprisons us, that holds us back permanently, unless we choose to. Unless we choose to. And this morning's experience, this water experience, is the invitation for each of us to release what it is that is in the way. We had the white stone ceremony last week, and originally we were going to have them in reverse order. This service was going to be last week, and the white stone ceremony was going to be this week. And Wilma called me after last Sunday and said, do you see the perfect order of this? That we set the intention with the white stone experience. I don't know if any of you brought your white stone. I have mine. That was a powerful experience for me last week. But we set that intention, and just like when you go on a big trip, have you ever packed too much? Have you ever worried about going to the airport and they're going to weigh your luggage? Right? Oh gosh, I don't want to be over that 50-pound mark. How much will it cost? Well, I could go to 50.5, and it might cost $100. Well, that's worth it because I needed the kitchen sink to go with me. Have you ever been in that experience where you just packed too much? Even if it didn't go over the weight, that when you got there, you went, what was I thinking? Where am I going to put my souvenirs? Where am I going to have my new experiences? So this order of things, the establishment through the white stone of the identity that we want to carry into 2026 requires us, invites us to release and to let go that which is going to get in the way of it. Now, I would bet that every person here can identify at least one thing, one behavior, one habit, one level of consciousness that gets in the way of what you intended for 2026. You know it already. Don't you? Haven't you known it for too long? Haven't you known it so well that you see it show up and you go, oh, old friend. Well, here I go again. Right? How many of you have had that? Come on now. it is in our power to release that and to let it go. We're reminded in a couple of scriptures that this is available to us. The first one is in Isaiah. Isaiah 43, 18 through 19. This is one we're all familiar with. Do not remember the former things, and a typo. Consider the things of old. I'm about to do a new thing. Now that's in Isaiah. That's in the Old Testament, trying to get people who are very rigid about laws and rules to recognize that it was time to move on, to move into something new. The next scripture is in Philippians, challenging us to forget what lies behind and to reach forward to what lies ahead. So if you believe in the Bible, there's two instructions right there in front of us of how to live. If you don't believe in the Bible, these are thousands of years old principles that have been available all along. The walk of faith doesn't matter what your level of belief is, it is based on what your level of experience is. And when our experience is what you just shared, is that I know there are things in my life that I continue to pack into my journey that don't serve me. I have befriended them. I can recognize them. I see them. And the question this morning is, are you willing to release them? Are you willing? And are you willing to turn 2026 into an experience of releasing and renewing and being disciplined with that? And I would challenge us not to take the slip of paper that you received and the pencil that you got to write on the piece of paper that will magically dissolve in your experience up here. I did have a couple of people come up and ask could they get a few more sheets and more at the 8.5 by 11, and if they could have 10 of those sheets. And does it work if you write on the front and the back? And could they wait until next Sunday to participate in this because they have so much to write? If we make our inventory so long that it is just an indictment of who we are, we will carry every single one of those behaviors forward. Because all we will do is say, I'm not worthy. Look at all my problems. I can't handle fear or debt or this issue or this issue or this issue. Here I am, Lord, the sinner you made me. Have you done it before? I have. I know I have. The powerful, fearless, moral inventory can sink your spiritual boat if you overload it. Take the thing or the two or the three that you want to release in 2026, and that is what you want to write down. That is what you want Spirit to move within you to have you identify, so that you have the ability to be able to move through the year and leave 2026 transformed and moved forward. Imagine a child. We've had some 7-year-olds in here. There was a 7-year-old that was seated over here in December. You remember we talked about her? For those of you who are here? Would we bring that 7-year-old up to the front and explain to her everything that she was lacking? You don't read at grade level. You don't share well with your friends. You eat too much sugar. You don't get to sleep on time. You get up too early. You aren't respectful. You follow me? We would diminish the child that she is in that experience. And we are all children of God. So if we treat ourselves the same way that we would never do what I just explained, how do you think your spirit responds? It withers. It withdraws, just like the child. This is a time for us to evolve into who we are. And we know how to do that. We do it gently. We do it with a positive connection with Spirit, a reminder, not an expectation that there's a magic wand that's going to cause transformation and everything that we do wrong is solved. It doesn't work that way. Dan in Virginia, you're back from Iowa, if I recall correctly, right? You had a wonderful trip celebrating the new year. In your years, I won't ask you to report your age. We all know where you are. Have you solved all of your shortcomings? Right. Growth is always available to us. So we don't arrive at a destination, an age, where we go, oh, we've got it all figured out now. It never comes. I heard that. I wish it did. It's not that. But for all of us in here, we do know that in many areas in our life, we're not the same person we were. When we released and let go, when we committed to changing, when we opened our hearts into the belief that there could be a different experience, we experienced that transformation. We did. We've witnessed it in others. We've experienced it ourselves. And that is the powerful point of the first Sunday in January. The ability to lean into that and make that our experience. The Tao Te Ching is another source of incredible spiritual wisdom that comes along, all tied into the same scriptures that we just shared. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. That is the experience of transformation. It is the experience that you have had when you made a commitment to change, to do different, to be different. That's the power. Hope you're taking time to write down your notes. Because the invitation is here for you today. To be able to write down the 2 or 3 things that, and I know there's going to be some of you who have already written 15,000 things, and that's okay. There's no judgment. But if you're able to check mark on that long list that you created, 1, 2, or 3 things that you are willing to release today, I want you to take time to write those down on your sheet of paper. And please use the one that dissolves. You'll mess up the whole thing. Write those down. What are the 2 or 3? On New Year's Eve, our family gathers and we do vision boards. And I was talking to somebody this week, a woman who has, single mom, who's got 2 young children, 11 and 14, so call that young. And she also does a vision board experience with her kids. Now, she comes from a completely different experience in terms of faith. I wouldn't necessarily say that she'd be here in unity, and she could be, because we'd accept her and it would work. But that vision board experience of being able to say what it is that you want, and this goes back to the issue of packing your bags, right? So if we set and create a vision board and we have all of our luggage with us, it gets in the way. The other part in our community that I really want to encourage each of us to do, like when we prayed, Cibernetta, where are you at? I know she had, don't forget you have to leave at 10:30. And she's got to get to work today. Do you remember when we prayed for Cibernetta in December? We brought her up here, and we didn't know necessarily, you didn't ask me that day for us to pray for you, but we did. So when we're gathered in this space, the people around you, the ones that you connect with, when Daisy invites us to connect with each other during the song after the message, we need to be present for each other. That helps us release some of that baggage, because it helps us be reminded that somebody sees us for who we are, that we're seen exactly where we are. So that vision board experience, Don, you can put up, I don't know if it'll work or not. So I'm just being transparent. This is the vision board I put together for me on New Year's Eve. There's a lot of baggage that can get in the way of my experience. You can read those. I'm not going to go through each of them. But like sugar and sleep, many of you know I'm diabetic. If I ignore the fact that I'm diabetic because I'm a good spiritual student, a good spiritual student will have a problem with sugar. Just true. Now, I can ask for healing and pray for healing and do what is mine to do. So in this category here, sugar and sleep, that 5.8 A1C is my goal for 2026. I want to be down to 5.8 A1C. That's where I want to be. It's going to take some work for me to do it. But the baggage that I'm releasing today that can get in the way of that are fear and lack and worry. They can get in the way of that goal. Now, I can go through each and every one of those. There's plenty of, I didn't follow my own instructions. If you can see from where you're at, there's a lot of things on this list. Oh, front and back there. I didn't do the back yet. But I can run into big trouble with each and every one of these if I overpack my experience going into 2026. Without a doubt. So I want to invite you into this experience. This is also going to be the time for our prayer bowl. So you also have your prayer. Now, you're not going to dissolve. Now, last year we had somebody who put their prayer into the dissolving bowl, and it just floated around in there. The power of prayer. So the dissolving paper is going to go into the bowl of water, and your prayer card is going to go into our prayer bowl. I'm going to ask our ministers and our prayer chaplains to come forward. And I'm going to ask all of you to rise. Don't fall for that. I don't mean to stand up. But I want you to rise in your consciousness to allow it to be in a space that creates a sacred experience for each person here. For each person. There is power in this room. I was still continued to be moved. Did you hear the strength of the silence during the opening meditation? Could you feel the quietness, the power in that? I haven't heard that and been in a space to listen for that in a long time. It reminds me of my first days at Unity Village when I was first exposed to the power of prayer and meditation. With 500 kids in an amphitheater, quiet. Because Sally Taylor, some of you may know Sally Taylor. Sally Taylor was the best metaphysician and Bible-based person I ever met. In 1985, when I went to that YOU conference and I listened to Sally Taylor, it was a 90-minute presentation in Lee's Summit, Missouri. I think the temperature was 92 and I think the humidity was 92. And we were outside in the amphitheater, 500 kids, and I think I might have been the only one that was excited to hear Sally Taylor talk about the Bible because I had grown up as a Jehovah's Witness until I was 8 to 10. Knew the Bible, didn't believe it, but boy, here's this woman who interpreted the Bible in a powerful way. Sally Taylor, Sallye. Find her on YouTube. If you want to be moved powerfully, listen to Sally Taylor. Sally has been with our community before. She's not on this plane anymore. But her message is still powerful. To be in the presence of her at a young age moved me. It allowed me to know that the spiritual life was available to each and every person. It wasn't trying to figure out somebody who was smarter than us, who had some divine channel. No, it was actually the opposite. And if you really pay attention to what Jesus taught, like we talked about on Christmas Eve, and we talked about last Sunday, the whole message of Jesus, of every powerful, healthy, spiritual path, is you too. You too. You too. And for those of you who think it's not you, you too. And for anybody who thinks it's not them, oh, it is, and you too. So I'm going to invite you to complete that process of releasing and letting go. Write it down. And as you are done, as you are ready to move forward, I want you to come up. Place your prayer in the prayer bowl. And prior to that, what you're releasing and letting go, place into the water. Allow it to be disappeared.